You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Welcome to the program. I was scrolling through my Twitter feed, and a tweet came up that really caught me off guard and totally changed the main topic of the podcast. And it's very strange. And then there's a whole article behind this. And let me just read you the tweet first. This was a tweet put out by Newsmax on the official Newsmax Twitter feed. And it's a quote from Dick Morris. Now, remember, Dick Morris, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago on the radio, Dick Morris, we found out, currently is and has been for a couple of years a top advisor to President Trump. Listen to this. It's a Dick Morris quote. Dick Morris, quote, "The Fox ban of Trump is a politically motivated decision, not based on news value, because Trump completely dominates the Republican Party and is still the biggest newsmaker in politics." Well, what got me with that was the Fox ban of Trump. And where have I been? Where did this happen? So they have a whole article about this. Listen to this. Listen to this. I mean, this is amazing. The New York Times is reporting that Fox News Channel has not had Donald Trump on its network in over 100 days, which the paper said,
wow.
Yeah, that's right, which the New York Times said was part of a larger strategy to eliminate the former president as a major GOP player.
Good luck.
Trump's last appearance on Fox News Channel was April 13th on Hannity. Here we are. It's the beginning of August.
So he hasn't been on Bartiromo or
nothing.
He used to be on her show
well,
all the time.
Okay. Now, this we're a little sketch here. There's Fox News Channel and then there's Fox Business.
Right.
So I don't want to say on Bartiromo's on Fox Business. She does a weekend show on Fox
but not
News.
on the main network.
Not on Fox News Channel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's been on Fox Business or not, but they consider that kind of fringe.
Yeah.
On Fox. The New York Times noted in its report that even Trump has complained his longtime friend doesn't seem to be paying him much attention anymore. That means, I guess, Hannity. And I know
I told you guys months ago that Hannity and Trump, that Hannity was distancing himself from Trump. He's caving into the pressure of the swamp.
Well, something interesting. Over the weekend, President Trump had the LIV Golf tournament at his New Jersey resort, and Tucker was there. The New York Times said Trump believes Fox News' strategy of shunning him is an effort in effectively displacing him from the news cycle as a de facto leader of the Republican Party. The decision to shun Trump has been made at the highest levels of Fox's parent company and is backed by Rupert Murdoch and his son. Both are Republicans, they say, but are said to have developed a strong distaste for Trump. Earlier this month, the Murdoch-owned newspapers, the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal, both published harsh rebukes of Trump's actions regarding January 6th, while strongly opposing a Trump bid for president in 2024. The New York Times said Trump's failure to accept, it goes on and on. They're talking about this and this and that. I'm not going to read 5,000 pages. Well, this is what we're going to accept. We're going to accept that you cannot trust Fox News at all. No. And by the way, last week I read a New York Post editorial about Trump in January 6th, and it was brutal. I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Do you think that they're really,
it was really
upset
harsh
about January 6th? Are they using that as an excuse? Because sometimes I think they never liked Trump anyway. I feel like they're using that as their excuse to get to shun him and not be associated with him.
You know what it is?
I don't think they ever really liked the guy.
Here's what it is. Fox News is a business, and they make boatloads of money through political advertisement. By the way, not just national, but at the local, on their local, wherever you pick it up on your local Fox, they run statewide and local ads for people running for office. And they also get a ton of corporate business that's politically connected too. So, like the corrupt congressmen have the donors, they have corrupt political establishment people and political donors on them too. Fox News is, like I give you an example, Karl Rove. Karl Rove gets way too much airtime on Fox News Channel. And the reason that is, it's like an infomercial because he's a campaign manager. Mm-hmm. His company manages campaigns of countless candidates at all kinds of levels, and they buy ads on Fox nationwide.
And he probably also buys time to be on the network.
He may.
Too.
He may, but they may give it to him just because he is involved. He's a big ad buyer,
right.
So he gets to be on there with his stupid whiteboard. So this is the Republican establishment putting the screws to them. And so far as Hannity, Hannity was such a suck up of Trump's when he first became president. I mean, he was embarrassing with his, he was, you could tell he was like, listen, I'm a fanboy of Trump. Don't misunderstand me. But there was an interview when Trump first became president that Trump did at the White House in the Oval Office. And Trump seemed a little annoyed with Hannity. Remember that? We talked about that at the time. It's been a few years. I remember I remember that interview clearly. And Hannity, I think, has, in effect, dropped Trump. Like you were saying, Kathy, he's more concerned about his other political friends and his contacts and everything. And that's pretty brutal. That's really sad. And
I think Hannity's a company man. And I think that he's going along with the company. You know what I mean? I could see him being that way, like being very much a company man and a butt kisser and all this. And Tucker doesn't seem that way so much. But they talk about Trump, but maybe they're letting them talk about him, but they're not letting them interview him.
Well, Tucker, who was not only was he at the LIV with Trump over the weekend, he was like really hanging out with Trump.
Oh, yeah.
They were buddying up together. And if you look on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, the thumbnail for this podcast episode on YouTube is a picture of Trump.
Yeah, but I don't trust Tucker at all. I never have. Tucker knows his audience.
Yeah.
And he's number one. Because he plays to his audience. He's not stupid.
Yeah.
He's been in the media a long, 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 long time, probably longer than Hannity in the television media. He used to be on CNN eons ago. And he knows his audience is hardcore MAGA. That is why he talks about Trump a lot and takes Trump's side on a lot of things. But I don't necessarily believe that he's his friend or his ally. As far as I'm concerned, you can't trust anybody there.
Well, and I know a lot of people listening.
He's just using him.
Yeah, I know a lot of people listening to us will say, "Oh, I've known that Fox was against Trump. I've known it since." Listen, we're in another phase now. Okay,
this is like on a whole.
We understand. We know. I know what you're talking about. Okay, I know you guys know everything. I know the person that knows. I know everything. I know everything. No.
Like this is old news.
What it is not, and anyone that tells you that is just stupid. Or they're part of the problem. And this is what I mean. Fox News has always had two different Fox Newses, okay? There's been the opinion people, which are the nighttime prime timers, and there have been the daytime news people. And when it came, there's always been a divide over Trump between the news division and the editorial programming at night. That's why Shepard Smith left over Hannity and all these people having Trump on all the time. He threw a hissy fit and left, and now he's in the fortress of solitude over there on CNBC and not part of the
that was
discussion
a big
anymore.
Career mistake.
Mm-hmm. But so there's always been that. But we have always had the primetime editorial people, which is Tucker, Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and a few others over there on Fox who handled things with Trump appropriately. And now we're finding out that they're not even having him on anymore. And it's been over 100 days.
Well, what they're trying to do is
that's a big change.
Yeah, and I said this like a year ago on the show. I said if they really wanted to hurt Trump, they would shut him out and stop talking about him. Not that I don't think it would hurt him, but in their mind it would. But I don't think it would hurt him with the people. But if they stop giving him any coverage at all, and because the media definitely helped elevate him for sure. And Trump knows how to use the media to his advantage. He always has. I mean, he made himself, there's a lot of billionaires in the world, but you don't know who they are. So I think what they're trying to do is make him irrelevant in their mind by
they're canceling him.
They're canceling him exactly. And they're just going to shut him out. They're not showing his rallies. They're not going to interview him. They're not going to give him any airtime. But I don't think that is a good strategy, and I certainly don't think it's a strategy that has staying power. Because once he announces he's running, if they want to be considered political, they have to interview the guy. I mean, they can't not interview the candidate running for president.
Well, I'll tell you how this came out.
Especially the main guy.
This is a very interesting thing because this New York Times article was a few days ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it because I don't really pay much attention to New York Times. This quote from Dick Morris is fresh today. So what happened was, and I'm guessing, is Trump had the number one host in the history of cable news, Tucker Carlson, over for the weekend at the golf tournament, and they talked. And Tucker told him, "There's a ban on you up at the Rupert Murdoch level. You're banned from Fox." I think Tucker Carlson told Trump over the weekend at the LIV, and now Dick Morris is getting this out. And I know a lot of you will say, "Well, I don't watch Fox." I hear this a lot. I don't watch Fox.
They still do. A lot of people still do. Their ratings are too high.
Just because you're not watching something doesn't mean others aren't. Fox News, like it or not, I don't like it, but I'd like it to be Newsmax or someone else. But Fox News is still number one in cable news.
Yeah.
24 hours a day,
people watch
they're number one in cable news. And all of you out there that are MAGA conservatives telling everybody, I don't watch Fox News. If all the MAGA conservatives stopped watching Fox News, how would they still be number one in cable news? They wouldn't be. So a lot of you are. I watch everything because I have to for my job, okay? I mean, I got to follow all this stuff. But Fox News, even if you truly don't watch Fox News, just because you're not doesn't mean they still don't have influence. They're the number one name in cable news. And I'll tell you something. I've had this frustration for years. I've told you guys on the radio, on the podcast. I've heard Michael Savage gripe about this too. It's a big thing. I am usually days and sometimes weeks ahead of the news cycle on stories all the time. And a lot of times I'll bring something up and I don't get traction with it, right? It doesn't pick up traction with callers or people. They're like, eh. And then a week later, a couple days later, 3 months later, it'll be on television and then it becomes alive to people. And even though the internet is very powerful and influential, still, with the vast majority of people that follow news in this country, and by news I mean politics, it's not real to them until it's on television. Things have to make it from the internet to TV. I'll give you an example of something that I've been talking about today that I think I am at least a day ahead of on the news cycle with the Pelosi trip to Taiwan. China said they will shoot down Pelosi's plane if she goes to Taiwan with a U.S. fighter escort. And now, but all the news media report, well, now she's going. And they're acting like, oh, she's standing up to China, she's going. And what I'm pointing out is, well, wait a minute. No. They didn't say she couldn't go to Taiwan. They said she couldn't go to Taiwan with a U.S. fighter escort because they consider Taiwan Chinese airspace. I haven't seen them report anything that she's going with a fighter escort, okay? That was the demand they made. That was the threat they made. I got that. Now, by tonight, maybe tomorrow or the next day, others will be talking about it on TV, and then it'll become a big thing, and then people will be saying, oh, well, So if you're listening to us, you're an internet person. You get your news and information from the internet because the Brian Craig Show podcast, we're on all the podcast platforms, we're on YouTube, we're all over the place, right? You're an internet consumer, okay? And I know the internet's big, and I know it's important. But still, Fox News is the number one in cable news. They have millions of viewers each and every day. And them...
In fact, the Five is like becoming their top show.
Which I don't get. I find it annoying. It's like,
I can't
it's like
stand
The
Dana
View.
Perino. And I used to I do watch some Fox shows, but not so much anymore because I can't handle Dana Perino. I'm sorry.
I don't like her either.
I used to love to watch Bill Hemmer after your show because I really like him, but I can't stand her. She's just, to me, nails on a chalkboard. She's so condescending and snooty. And she talks to Bill Hemmer like it's her son. And Outnumbered, which I really used to enjoy, I cannot stand that Emily Compagno. I cannot stand her. She talks like a robot when she talks. She enunciates every single syllable. And she is so out of her league on the show. You can tell she's like a nervous wreck. She sits up perfectly straight. She talks like never shuts up. And she's very flustered. And to me, seems very out of place. I just don't like her.
She feels stupid.
And the show's boring. The show's become boring. And I stopped watching it last week. I told you, I said, this show's no longer good. I like Kayleigh McEnany. Sometimes they have good people on there, but the show has become boring to me. So I really haven't watched Fox. I used to watch that every day, and I would watch sometimes Tucker and sometimes The Five. But I know some people say they don't watch Fox. There are some shows they do watch because, hey, we're all news junkies and we have our favorites. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's no shame in that. I don't think you should feel bad. You should be able to watch whatever the hell you want. You shouldn't have to.
Yeah, but people
say you don't when you do, or don't worry about it.
Fox
watch whatever you want. But
would not be number one if all of you who said you weren't watching really were not watching.
Yeah, I know, but how can you make that happen?
But this thing about what they're doing with Trump is they're doing two things with Trump. Okay, one which they talked about in this article, Dick Moore. They're keeping him out of the news cycle to make it seem like he's not relevant. But But the other thing Fox News is doing is giving credibility to the January 6th hearings.
Yeah.
They're acting as if they're credible, that they're realistic, that they're fair. And none of this is true. And I remember that editorial. Steve called me. Steve Kane called me about this edit. He's like, you got to see this editorial in the New York Post. I looked it up. It was a nasty editorial about Trump and January 6th. It looked like Liz Cheney wrote it. Maybe she did. I don't know. And that was in the New York Post, which is part of News Corp. And
what's happening is it's getting closer to him announcing, and they're getting panicked, and they're amping it up. They're amping up their efforts. They do not want him to run. They do, but you know what? The problem is Trump is a force of nature, and he's beyond that. He just is unstoppable, and the people that come with him are unstoppable. He has so much support from the American people. The people love him. His support has grown. And it's an unstoppable MAGA storm, and it's an unstoppable red wave. I mean, look at how he's affecting these elections. They cannot tell you that he has no influence. He is influencing everything. Yeah. Every election, every news cycle, he is a force to be reckoned with.
No doubt.
And they can't stand it. They're jealous. They don't understand the love he has. It's like an anomaly to them. They don't get it. But they don't have to get it. They don't. As long as we get it.
That's right. And we do get it. Now, I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. And those of you that are Patreon supporters, Kathy and I, over the weekend, uploaded to the Patreon page a Patreon supporter-only podcast episode that only Patreon supporters have access to. And if you would like to support the show, becoming a Patreon supporter is a great way to do that. There's a link in the description of this and every episode to our Patreon page. You go to that link. It opens up our Patreon page. It explains the whole thing to you. And there are benefits. There are perks. All Patreon members on our Patreon page get commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. Only Patreon supporters get that. On occasion, we do exclusive podcast episodes just for our Patreon supporters. There's other perks, too, and benefits. And one of them is our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every episode. And the top Patreon supporters, some of you may not know this, but I do put your names, first names only, but I do put our top Patreon supporters' names in the description of each and every podcast episode as well. And the names you will hear are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Nick, Rick, Wesley, and Leigh Paul. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all. And again, if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there is a link in the episode description. The direct website address is patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. Patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. So Biden, they say, has COVID again, and he got COVID. He got over it. Then he went out and went around, and then they said he tested positive again. That was over the weekend, and now today they're walking that back. All they do is walk things back. They're saying that he never really got over COVID, that the medication he was on gave him a false negative test, which is common, of course, and now he's in isolation again.
They don't know what's going on.
I don't, at this point, I'm going to tell you right here, right now, I do not believe Joe Biden has COVID. I think Joe Biden has had
Like an episode.
A dementia episode.
I don't think he ever had.
And, when he was talking the first time, who knows? He may not have, Kathy. I think he's had a severe dementia episode.
Yeah, they're scrambling.
And they're using COVID as an excuse to keep him isolated.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's why his doctor didn't come out.
Well, the
Suspicious.
doctor doesn't want to have a Q&A where he has to go on the record about anything,
right,
because
exactly
he doesn't want to lie
because
it'll affect his credibility as a practitioner.
Yeah. There's so many there's so many things we're being lied to about.
Well, this is a big one.
It's incredible, but Biden's a pathological liar. He's lied his whole life about his career, about everything. So lying to him is just it's second nature.
But Kathy, if he has had a major dementia episode and they're hiding him because of that, which I do believe is what's going on.
They can't hide him forever.
Who's running the United States?
His wife and Obama.
Oh, the woman who raised Hunter. She did a great job.
I think Jill,
and her daughter's also a drug addict too.
Is doing a lot.
She's a train wreck, Jill Biden.
I know. Well, they all are.
Fake doctor.
Obama is doing a lot. When was the last time we had a recession in this country? Do you remember? Who was
it's
president?
been years. I can't remember, but it's been years.
Was it under Obama?
I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that.
I don't know.
I'll have to look it up.
If it was under Obama and now it's under Biden, it's like,
But I'll tell you this. I know we got one now, and not only do we have a recession now, we got this big problem with China, and if Jill Biden is running the country, we're in big trouble. First off, she's a wreck, right? I mean, both of her kids are addicts, in and out of rehab their entire, I would say their adult life, but were they in rehab as teenagers? Probably, I don't know. But they have a lifetime of addiction among the children. She's a wreck. And she's no different than Biden because she's been married to him for all these years. And so she's into whatever kind of freaky lifestyle he's into. And and it's also illegal. And what these people do is I've heard this my entire life. Woodrow Wilson had a stroke and his wife ran the country for the last year of his presidency and even signed the documents. Well, you know what? Back during the Woodrow Wilson era, the United States was not a world power.
Yeah.
Okay. We were not the leader of the world. It was pre-World War II. And most of the country, very little of the country had paved roads and electricity back then. So it's a whole new country today. You can't get away with the wife running it. And this is what's really disgusting to me is the media. The White House is not big. It's 200 years old. You go to the White House, it's much smaller than you think. If you've ever been to the White House, you know what I'm talking about. If you've not been to the White House, you probably think it's massive. It is very tiny. The rooms, it's like you're in a dollhouse. The rooms are tiny because they made stuff tiny back then,
The
right?
rooms are smaller,
The rooms are small. The house is small. And it's very cramped quarters. And everyone in the White House press corps knew if he's had a dementia slip and they're covering up for that, everyone in the White House press corps, including Peter Doocy, know.
Yeah.
And they have a duty to report this. And let me tell you, the Republicans, we're going to have our red tsunami, the blue flush is coming. This is an impeachable offense, not just for Joe, but for the vice president. Vice presidents, anyone in federal office can be impeached. It happens and removed. Kamala Harris, if has had a dementia episode, and this is a cover for that, she is not doing her duty and very well may be breaking the law, probably is breaking the law. If she knowingly is allowing Jill Biden to run the country, she's not elected, Jill Biden.
Let's see what happens in November. If they do anything, I'm sure they'll investigate Afghanistan and his withdrawal.
Well, I want to investigate what's going on right now.
I agree, but all these investigations in Washington never go anywhere. They never lead to anything. They just love to do them. They love to waste our money and be on TV and talk about it. It gives them something to do. The senators really like to do it because they like to get on television to talk about these things. It's airtime for them.
Well, this one's pretty bad, and I'll tell you, I referenced it earlier in the show about Pelosi being pushed around by China. Joe told Pelosi not to go to Taiwan.
Yeah.
The White House, and she's going. They're not. I don't think she's taking the fighter escort, which was a demand of China's not to do. So they've caved to China. And, what I've been talking about with this, all these things that are going on, China's not going to shoot down the plane of the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
I can't imagine.
That's not going to happen. But what all these things are a test to see what America's reaction will be. And America, under this senile old coot, okay, Joe Biden, has been tested multiple times. Putin invaded Ukraine. That was a test. We failed it. This thing with Pelosi, it's another test. We failed it, right? So the supply chain, the supply chain crisis. Do you know why we have a supply chain crisis? Mm-hmm. China. The ships, China did this, another test.
Yep.
The ships at sea, those shipping companies, it doesn't matter who owns them, okay? They're all beholden to China because they got to sail in and out of Chinese ports. And if you own freighters, if you own cargo ships and you don't do what China wants, you can't leave or dock at their ports. So China caused the supply chain crisis with all the ships way back out in the ocean off of California not docking. That was another test.
I tell you, Bill Clinton really screwed us over. I wonder if he realized at the time, maybe he did, what he was doing with this NAFTA and opening up and sending all the manufacturing over there. I mean, it didn't even occur to him, and he's not a stupid man, that becoming dependent on China was not a good thing. We definitely need to become more self-sufficient. And I think China is behind. They're the way they have war now, it's not the way it used to be. Okay, there's other ways to fight a country now through social media, through manipulation, intimidation, pitting people against each other. There's so many things they can do, like you said, with the supply chain and other things going on that are not traditional wartime stuff. There's other methods of war that they're doing, and they're hitting us on all fronts, on
That's
everything,
right.
and things we never thought about. And people are so ridiculous. And here's another one I was telling you, I want to talk about this. This is a crazy theory with this transgender thing. Liberals need a villain. They need a villain to manipulate their voters. I think, this is a crazy theory, but I think it's possible. Because all of a sudden we're getting all these teachers that are teaching this trans stuff in schools. I'm wondering if this is an effort by the Democrats at the upper level to get conservatives to react and to create a villain.
Yeah.
They have useful idiots. So they're getting these useful idiots, these teachers, to go on TikTok and to upset parents, upset people about all this trans stuff. And because they do that, the conservatives get upset and react. And then what happens when they react? Then the Democrats can use that to manipulate people to say, look how bigoted they are.
Yeah.
You need to vote for us. They're transphobic. I feel like they're creating this problem for political purposes.
Yeah, well, that's what they do.
I don't think this is totally organic, what's going on in these schools.
That's what they do.
I think this is a calculated effort by the left to get us to react to. Look at DeSantis.
Yeah.
He is reacting to libs of TikTok. He is reacting. He is passing legislation because of libs of TikTok and because of what he is seeing in these classrooms. I agree with what he's doing, but the left now can create an enemy out of the right and an enemy out of him because because they can say, look, he's oppressing you. He's shutting you down. He's a bigot. He's this, he's that. It's playing right into their hands where they can turn around. Is what I'm saying making sense?
No, that's they
is
need. Is
that a crazy theory?
What they're doing is they're creating a victim and a divide. That's what they're creating.
A divide. Yeah. They're creating a villain. They're creating victims. And I think they're using these teachers and encouraging these teachers to do these things in the classroom to get conservatives riled up and to create that division. They thrive on division and fear.
Yeah.
That is how that party gets votes.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there is a lot more to talk about. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Back after this.
From author Amadeus Rockefeller comes the book Taiwan Butterfly, available on Amazon. In this must-read book, an ancient and powerful grimoire called the Book of Butterfly that's existed secretly for thousands of years comes into the possession of a British missionary named Jonathan Woods during the Chinese Civil War. Jonathan flees to Taiwan with the ancient spell book and takes up residence in a high mountain township at the center of the island. There, he tutors a rich landowner's daughter about language, life, and sorcery. She begins using the dark arts using the spell book. Just before she dies in a car accident, her grieving boyfriend is told about the possibility that she could be resurrected if he becomes Jonathan's new apprentice and believes in the power of true love. Available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions. Order your copy right now on Amazon. Taiwan Butterfly from author Amadeus Rockefeller. So you want to find the right web hosting company that fits your needs, but you don't know where to begin. You need to head over to cheapwebhostingoffer.com. They test and compare the best web hosting providers on the market to help people just like you choose from a very large web hosting offer and find the best solution as web hosting. And right now at cheapwebhostingoffer.com, you can save up to 70% off hosting plans and get a free domain. It's great for anyone who wants to start an online business, whether you're talking about a website or blog. Choosing the best web hosting is tough. There are hundreds of options, and every web hosting claims to be the best one out there. It can be confusing, but it doesn't have to be. CheapWebHostingOffer.com do all the research for you. All you have to do is choose the right one for you. Go right now to CheapWebHostingOffer.com and save up to 70% off hosting plans and get a free domain. That's CheapWebHostingOffer.com. If you want lips that glimmer and sparkle, there's a lip kit on Amazon you will love. The shiny, long-lasting Lipstick Glitter Lip Kit. It comes in many colors, including Scarlet Red, Dynasty Gold, Sugar Nude, and Purple Rain, with more exciting colors on the way. These are long-lasting, fade-proof lipsticks that stay put and make your lips look fabulous. Create perfect, shiny lips that look gorgeous and shiny. You can buy the shiny, long-lasting Lipstick Glitter Lip Kit on Amazon at Amazon.com/shops/Hina Laulea. That's HINALAULEA.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. You know, there's one guy in Washington that I'm suspicious of everyone in Washington, okay, unless their name is Trump or McEnany. There's a handful of people. But there's one guy in Washington that's been on my radar for a long time, this Kirby guy. He's the Pentagon spokesperson. Mm-hmm. He used to be an admiral. Who leaves being an admiral to being the press spokesperson? When you're an admiral, every time you walk in the room, everyone stands up. Everyone you walk by salutes you. I mean, it's a big thing. And a spokesperson's kind of like a girly position compared to being an admiral. You know what I mean? Seems very strange. I've never trusted this guy, and I've always been very suspicious of him. It doesn't seem weird. I can't quite explain it. It seems like, and he works at the Pentagon. When he was an admiral in uniform, because he's not in the Navy anymore, he retired from the Navy and took this civilian post. Walking around the Pentagon, people saluted him and stood up when he walked in the room. I mean, he had the salute and stand up for people that were higher ranks than him, but, he was pretty high up there. And it just always seems strange to me. Why would a guy give that up to still work in the Pentagon? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
This might have something to do with it.
Well, I was going to play this audio.
Well, besides that, they just breaking news. Biden is sending another $550 million to the Ukraine. So I don't know. Maybe these jobs,
another $500 million.
Another $500 million. That's $8 billion total.
That's like cigar money compared to everything.
Maybe these jobs are very lucrative for these guys.
Maybe
they get their cut.
So Kirby here, he's talking about Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, and he wanted to go on the record to state the administration's position. Listen to this. This is Kirby today about Taiwan and China.
Repeatedly said that we oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side. We have said that we do not support Taiwan independence, and we have said that we expect cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means. We have communicated this.
Okay. So this, this is earlier. We were talking about the tests going on. This is another test we just failed. Okay. Taiwan calls itself China. For those that don't, I know most of you guys know, but we may have Democrats listening. Taiwan is free China, and mainland China is controlled by the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. The Red China, Communist China, the CCP do not recognize Taiwan. And there's always and the United States has protected Taiwan because the Chinese have always wanted to go in and take it over militarily.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
And what's happened this week has signaled nothing other than take it, China. Yeah. It's all yours. And here's the deal. Okay, the Cold War with the Soviet Union was mostly fake. I mean, it was just fake for all kinds of things. But what's been going on with China is completely insane. This is not. I wouldn't even say we're in a Cold War with China. I would say we're in a hot war with China.
I think
and we're losing.
I think this is all planned and scripted and staged, and I think the Biden is in on it. I think this is all theater, and they've made their arrangements ahead of time. Biden made his deal ahead of time with China, but they have to present it to the people in a certain way. And I think this is all theater for what is the end result, which will be them taking over Taiwan. That's what I think is going on.
Well, it looks like, listen, we all know that Joe Biden is an employee of China. He's like their employee of the month.
Exactly.
And that they've made a deal already. Yeah. And a lot of people are starting to think, and I agree with this. I had a caller on the radio Friday, John from Wellington, who brought this up, and other people have been talking about it since his call, that China or that Pelosi is going to Taiwan to start to tell the Taiwanese government that China's taken over. It's going to happen. Maybe. And they and basically think about this. They have sold Taiwan to China, and there's precedent for this with Biden. Remember, he gave Afghanistan to China when we pulled out. And what I mean by that is the lithium deposits. We found out when we did a geological survey of Afghanistan that they have the largest lithium deposits on the planet Earth. Lithium is vital for the batteries in electric cars. Joe Biden gave Afghanistan to not just the Taliban, but to China. China now has control of those lithium deposits for the electric cars, and they also have that air base that we have that's just a few miles from China. So there's a history, there's a record, there's a precedent of the Biden regime giving very valuable things like Afghanistan to China. So why not Taiwan? Now, before we move on, I want to tell people today I talked to Mike Lindell's office, and they alerted me that the big, humongous special that's been going on the MyPillow slippers, which include these all-weather shoes that they now have in the slipper section, which have been $90 off, that this special will be ending soon. $90 off the MyPillow My Slippers at MyPillow.com with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. And that's because, well, the inventory is running thin, and when they start to run out of different sizes or colors, they'll have to discontinue the $90 off special, and they are approaching that now. So support Mike Lindell and all the content that I bring you as well, the radio show, my YouTube channel, the podcast, and everything. And at the same time, save $90 off each and every pair of the My Slippers, which come in multiple colors, slip-ons, moccasins. They have pink for the ladies, and they have the fur-lined ones and also the My Slippers without the fur lining to wear during the summer times here. Right now, $90 off, just $49.98 for the MyPillow My Slippers. But you've got to use our promo code at checkout, Kane, Kane, for that deal. And whatever other specials you see there, you can take advantage of with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at MyPillow.com. But the My Slippers, $90 off, just $49.98. That's a special that is going to disappear anytime without notice because they are starting to run low on colors and sizes and things like that. So they are going to have to discontinue that when it happens. So go to MyPillow.com, take advantage of this incredible offer. $90 off the MyPillow My Slippers, just $49.98 with our promo code Kane, Kane, at checkout at mypillow.com. All right, now this is breaking news right now as I'm speaking. The Chinese have made another threat against the United States. Okay, this is, it just never ends. Listen to this. The Chinese People's Liberation Army has issued another warning to Nancy Pelosi ahead of her expected trip to Taiwan with a video simulating a missile strike, aircraft carriers advancing, and fighter jets in formation, with a stern warning from Chinese state media. The video was posted on WeChat following reports that Pelosi will arrive Tuesday night in Taiwan, despite Beijing warning they could shoot her plane down and launch a military response. A Chinese state media personality, whose name I cannot pronounce, issued a grim message to the top Democrat. He said this on Chinese state television: "Let her go to Taiwan, but pray before her departure, wish herself a safe journey, and wish herself to not be defined by history as a sinner who starts a spiral of escalation process, expanding military frictions to a large-scale war in the Taiwan Strait," unquote. Apparently, run-on sentences are big in the CCP. Senior government officials from Taiwan and a U.S. official have confirmed that Taiwan is on her stop list, even though, as of this moment, it's not on her public schedule. We're in a whole new area here, and this is threat after threat after threat. And, there's nothing's going to happen because we have weaklings that are in hiding in the residence. And what I'm truly wondering, we were talking about, is there a dementia moment? There very well may be. When someone is suffering from different types of age-related dementia or other things that cause such things, the dementia, the symptoms get worse under very stressful times. And when you have the other superpower, as scary as this is, on the planet Earth, the United States is one, the other superpower is China, that's pushing us towards this war footing, the stress of that could very well trigger a dementia episode with Joe Biden. And he may be hiding in the basement because of these repeated threats coming from China. So with this latest threat that's of an attack from China, Biden may have had a breakdown, a nervous breakdown of sorts connected to the dementia. Remember, hey, listen, we're in Florida. Half the population here have dementia, Alzheimer's. It's Florida, right?
I'd say more than half.
Yeah, it seems like it. Drive around on the road. You'll see what I'm talking about. When people that suffer from these types of conditions are encountered with stressful situations, it triggers their dementia, triggers their issues. The stress makes it worse.
Stress aggravates any medical condition.
And between the recession and the threats from China, Joe Biden may very well have had a major episode and a breakdown, and that is why he's in this COVID isolation at the White House. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's more to talk about in these very scary times we're in. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We will be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
As a single mother, author, and successful real estate agent, Cindy Bermudez Pressgraves knows the value of hard work. While going through a divorce and raising 2 children on her own, she became an award-winning realtor. Consistently a top producer for her agency, she seeks to empower other women with her success story. In her new book, Becoming Successful in Real Estate, available on Amazon and Audible, she relates the highs and lows of real estate and offers a behind-the-scenes look at the life of a real estate agent. She's a certified certified luxury home marketing specialist, a member of the $1 Million Club, and has earned the Top 5% award for 2021. Now, she brings her experience and expertise to you in this must-read and inspiring book. If you're an agent or thinking of joining this amazing career, order your copy right now on Amazon and Audible. Becoming Successful in Real Estate from author Cindy Bermudez Presgraves. Cancer is a disease that affects almost everyone in some way. The book from author David Etheridge, Cancer Alternatives, available on Amazon, tells you what doctors won't, how you can prevent and fight cancer while restoring your health and immunity. Cancer Alternatives also discusses the damages that are caused by certain choices people make and how you can make the right choices to fight cancer effectively. Written from personal experience, Cancer Alternatives discusses a number of things that can affect the outcome of your cancer struggle, as well as some things that might even prevent cancer in the first place. This must-read book is not about traditional cancer treatment because that is the realm of medical practice. It is about why cancer develops, why it spreads, and what you can do to reduce the risk, presence, and spread of cancer. Cancer Alternatives from author David Etheridge. Order your copy on Amazon. There's no doubt about it. Life is sweeter with cookies. It's time to savor the small things. At bellsrains.com, you will find baked-to-order gourmet cookies. These are made to be enjoyed and savored. Make sure to try their chocolate chip, snickerdoodle, or oatmeal raisin. They also have cookies for chocolate lovers, gluten-free, vegan, and many, many more. bellsrains.com customers rave about their mini cookies, requesting specialty flavors. They're perfect for parties, sharing with friends and family, or just enjoying for yourself. They're beautifully packaged and totally delicious, and they make great gifts. Everyone loves the mini cookies at bellsrains.com. Order some today. Life is sweet. Savor the small things.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And remember, the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms. If there's a podcast platform, we are on it, including Spotify and Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Audible, and many others. And if you don't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Brian Craig on YouTube. I put tons of content on there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some things I put up there over the weekend in a bit. I just want to mention a couple other things here. I know Kathy's got some stuff too, but I want to mention a couple things here. I just glanced over an article during the break that talked about the low ratings on the LIV golf tournament at Trump's resort. And they're, oh, look, people are tired of Trump. No one watched it. Let me tell you, I knew about the LIV, and it was hard for me to find. It was carried on YouTube. I don't know who carried it on television. You know, the PGA, I don't know anything. I'm not interested in golf, I must tell you. I'm not interested in golf. I don't follow golf. I don't follow any sports. I follow Trump, okay? That's what I follow. And I watched a little bit of golf over the weekend because Trump was involved in it. But my understanding of what's going on here with this Saudi-backed LIV and Trump and others is that the PGA, according to some of the golfers, has a bit of a monopoly on pro golf. And a lot of these golfers think they're getting ripped off by the PGA, is my understanding, because they control the thing. They decide what the purses are to win at the winnings and all of that stuff, and they're not sharing enough of the wealth. And there's also a television domination that they have. They have contracts, and there's all this domination over television. So you bring in something new like LIV, it's not going to get television coverage. The media hate Trump. He's connected to this, so they're not going to carry it.
Well, let me say
this about it. It's very hard to find.
Because I asked my dad about it because he's a huge golfer. Golfs like 3 times a week.
Oh, my goodness.
And he's retired. That's what he does. He golfs every day.
Oh, sounds exciting.
And he likes it. He golfs and fishes. He alternates days.
Oh.
But I asked him if he was watching it. He says, well, where can I watch? And I explained it to him. And I said, you got to go on YouTube. He says, I'm not doing all that.
Yeah.
So
it was hard to get to.
It was hard. I finally was able to watch it on their YouTube channel. But I showed my dad how to do it. I said, bring it up on your television if you have a smart TV, or bring it up on your computer. And he's like, I'm not going to go through all that trouble. And he's an avid golf fan. He watches all the PGA tournaments, everything.
Yeah.
But he did say that, I said, well, are you interested in that? And he said, a lot of the golfers are like retired
Some of them are,
older. And he said there's not like as much excitement or buzz. And he said, I think people feel very loyal to the PGA because they've been watching it for so long. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to take time, but I don't think it has anything to do with Trump.
Well, it's like, look,
nothing to do with
Look
Trump.
At the USFL. There have been attempts at other football leagues, and even though people hate the NFL and what they stand for,
but they need to be on television to go anywhere.
Well, here's the LIV really isn't for the American audience. It's for the international audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know what it's going to do internationally over time, but it's not for us. And
that's what he said to me. He said this is more an international tournament.
Yeah,
that's going to do better out of the country.
But the media hate Trump so much. Anything connected to Trump, they're going to diss. So don't buy that. A couple other small things I just want to mention here. There's one thing I want to mention about the passing of Nichelle Nichols, because you guys know, if you're a longtime listener, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. And I have met Nichelle Nichols on many, many occasions. And she was actually the first Star Trek actor I met. I went to a Star Trek convention when I was 15, and it was Nichelle Nichols and George Takei. Yeah. And I met her first because she just happened to be at the door when I got there. And when I was underage, although it was legal where I was, I was on a Star Trek cruise. And I got to have some drinks with Nichelle Nichols and like 45 other people. It wasn't one-on-one. But I was only 18, and I was drinking with Nichelle Nichols and these 35, 40 other people. She was always a very nice lady to me, and I thought she was pretty cool. And she was like 90, 89 or 90.
89.
And she's had some tough things here. A lot of people don't know this about Nichelle Nichols. Her brother was in that Hale-Bopp comet cult that all committed suicide. Remember that back in the 90s?
Yes.
They thought the comet was going to pick them up and take them. It was a spaceship.
I remember that.
And they I don't know, they drank some cool, I don't know what they did. They committed suicide.
They found them all sleeping in their beds.
Nichelle Nichols' brother was one of those, which I thought was interesting. But there's just one thing about her, because I know you guys don't like Star Trek like I do.
I guess he took her show a little too seriously.
Yeah, really. But there's a lot of talk going on about and I hate to take this away from Nichelle Nichols, but the first interracial kiss on network television was Captain Kirk and Nichelle and Uhura, right? William Shatner and Nicole Nichols. First Nichelle Nichols. What did I say, Nicole? What kind of Star Trek fan am I?
Exactly.
No, Nichelle Nichols.
You've been up since 3. So.
Yeah, I know. I've been up 12 hours and I'm still going. But anyway, the first interracial kiss on network television was between Nichelle Nichols and William Shatner. That is technically true, but before people make a big groundbreaking thing about it, I'll tell you 2 quick things about it. One, while white Captain Kirk in 1969 kissed African-American Uhura on television, he didn't do it because he wanted to. It was an episode of Star Trek's 3rd season called Plato's Stepchildren, and Kirk and Uhura were under the mind control of these evil aliens, and the evil aliens made him kiss her. So I don't know if that really counts. He did it like against his will and was even fighting to stop from kissing her. That's one thing, okay? So that's kind of half, not really doing the whole thing. And the other thing is, it was in Star Trek's 3rd and final season on television when it was about to be canceled, and Gene Roddenberry did that as a ploy to try to save the show and get some publicity around it too. So it's not this big civil rights
I still
thing.
Think it was a big deal. I mean, the 60s.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
The 60s. You told me that they wouldn't even air that episode in some markets
in the South. Yes, the Democrat-controlled South. That is correct.
Interracial marriage was still illegal in some places.
Yes, in Democrat-controlled Jim Crow South areas.
So I think it's groundbreaking, and I do feel I like Uhura.
Yeah, everybody likes Uhura.
I do feel that she was a groundbreaking character as far as black characters. She was a woman. She was black because up until that point, most black characters were porters or maids.
That's right.
And hardly spoke English.
And she was an officer on the ship, so that was a big deal.
She was on the bridge as an officer who was frequently consulted and gave advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think so. I mean, didn't sometimes didn't people ask her opinion on things and go to her for help she was the language person or something?
She was the communications officer.
Right.
Yeah.
She had an important job. She didn't
Yeah.
she wasn't a secretary. She didn't just sit there and talk and push buttons. They did have to go to her for help. Sometimes she contributed to the team. And I think it was a groundbreaking role for her. And I
don't want to take everything away from her because I'm a fan of hers and I liked her.
No,
a lot,
I mean,
but I'm putting some context.
You're putting it in context of today.
Yeah,
I think you're not understanding what it was like back then.
That is true.
And I'm sure she got a lot of heat in her private life walking the streets from people for what she did. It was 50 years ago, and it was a very different time in this country. And I think people need to realize
I like this show, Nichols.
how things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
She was definitely a groundbreaker.
And
very brave, because I'm sure it was not easy for her. I'm sure she was not always treated nicely because of that role, and
that's
because
right.
it made people uncomfortable.
No, that's true. That's true.
I think she's great, and
but they didn't
I thought
do it.
She was great. As
they didn't
Uhura.
do it like in the first or second season. It was. I understand.
No, but
it was a big
still
deal.
a big deal back then.
It was a big
really
deal.
was.
It was a big deal. I'm just putting context on what
but
happened.
You can't really put things in context of today. It's totally different. Everybody's
I understand.
all woke.
I understand.
But nobody was woke back then. And it was a big deal.
Yeah, there was no one was woke.
And I'm
then.
sure when she kissed Shatner, she was worried about somebody taking her out and lynching her.
Some Democrat.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure she was a little nervous how people would react to her, or that it might destroy her career or whatever. But I always liked Uhura. I thought she's one of my favorite characters.
Now I'm going to throw one other thing out on the show here that's a little random, but okay. This is our raccoon problem that we have. Okay,
you think it's a problem?
Well, some people don't. Some people love
Brian's
raccoons.
Terrified of raccoons.
We this morning I was in our studio. I do my show prep here in our studio where we podcast from in the morning, and it's where I do my live streams, my live stream studio on the weekends on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I heard a lot of noise in our backyard. I mean, a lot of noise.
Raccoons get big. They can get very big.
Oh, yeah.
They're like a little baby bear.
Yeah, and I was a little nervous because there was so much noise, and I went outside. We have a screened-in back porch, and our cat was on the back porch, and I'm like, what's going on out in the backyard? And I went out there. The cat's looking through the screen, looking out, trying to see what's going on, and I'm hearing all kinds of noise.
Oh, my gosh. I'm surprised you didn't get the gun.
We have came close. We have a privacy palm tree hedge. I don't know how to describe it, but we have a hedge of palm trees.
It's like 30 feet high.
Yeah, that gives us privacy from the people around us, and it's nice. And I'm hearing all this ruckus in the palm trees in the back of the house, our palm tree hedge of privacy. And it's so dark out there, I can't see what's going on. I'm like, what is going on? Is there somebody out there? Is someone trying to break in? And I'm thinking, should I go inside and get the Glock? I don't know. It's pretty dark. So I said, well, before I get the Glock,
don't shoot the raccoon.
Well, I didn't know it was a raccoon yet, but I did something really stupid. If I thought there was a person back there, I turned the light on my phone. I couldn't see in the backyard; it's a sea of darkness. And I used it as a flashlight. I put the phone up on the screen, and I'm looking out, and I'm hearing all this movement. I mean, tons of movement in the trees. And if it was a person, like a burglar, I would have been dead. I should have come inside and got the Glock.
I don't know why you did that. You've watched enough ID shows, and you always see when people do that, you say, how stupid is this
I did the stupid thing, and I looked, and it was raccoons. I saw at least two who were full-size raccoons, and they just looked at me. Now, they were ways because it was the palm tree hedge. And I'm like, this is crazy. And they're not afraid.
No, they're not afraid.
They're just looking at me like, what are you going to do, man? So I start making noise. I banged.
You're more afraid of them than they are.
We have some bar stools out there, so I start yelling and I'm banging the bar stools.
Oh my god!
And then they ran off, and they were massive. And I want to get rid of them. So I'm going to ask you guys out there in the listening audience any tips on how to get rid of raccoons.
Tell them what you did already.
Well, I immediately went on YouTube and said, "How can I get rid of raccoons?" And I know about traps, but I don't want to trap a raccoon and have to take a wild raccoon in a trap in my car and drive out to the Everglades and let it go.
Wisconsin, you're not.
I'm not interested in any of that. I'm scared of them. They have claws. They got rabies.
Yeah.
They're terrible, dirty animals. They're big rats. I hate raccoons. And so I went on YouTube and I saw all kinds of ridiculous things. And someone said, well, a couple people actually said they hate cayenne pepper. And we have this thing that's like, I don't know, like a 2 pounds of cayenne pepper. I don't know. It's like the biggest thing of cayenne pepper.
We have huge things of spices that we rarely use, and we have a huge thing of cayenne pepper.
So it's like 2 pounds of cayenne pepper. So I went out to the palm tree hedge and to the area where they were and walking, and I covered it all in cayenne pepper. Yeah. So our backyard.
I should have taken a video of that. It was pretty funny. And I was out there spreading cayenne pepper
I told
around.
Kathy, I said, listen, I'm going out with the cayenne. I did this after I came home from the radio show. I told Kathy, I said, come out and watch me.
I had to stand guard.
Because our palm trees are like 30, 40 feet high, maybe 50.
They're like the size of koala bears.
Yeah, and
They're
I said,
huge.
And I said, Kathy, look up high, because if one of the raccoons is up in the tree and it's coming down over my head, yell and let me know.
They're not going to attack you.
So our backyard is like cayenne pepperville. I mean,
it was so
pretty
funny.
brutal.
One time we would hear this like scurrying on the roof. And one time I went out to the car because you said, go outside and see if you could see if there's something, it's an animal or something on the roof. So I go out and I'm sitting in the car looking. I didn't see anything looking. And then you come out the front door.
Yeah.
And you shut the door and you're standing there like getting yourself together. And there was right above you on the roof, the biggest raccoon I've ever seen.
Right over my head.
It must have been 60 pounds. And I said to you, whatever you do.
60 pounds?
It was huge.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, whatever you do, don't look up. Because they get fat, raccoons. They can get really big.
Yeah.
And you look at me and you said, what's up there? I said, don't look up. Just come to the car. Just trust me, come to the car, because I know how you're about rodents. And you looked at me, I said, I promise you. And you came to the car very slowly. I said, walk slowly. And you turned around and you saw this massive raccoon right above the door.
Scared the hell out of me.
Like 2 feet above your head. And you absolutely lost your mind.
Yeah, I don't like it. And we had...
I mean, you freaked out.
We had a raccoon problem years ago. We had these 2...
Yeah, they're back.
Ficus trees, and the ficus trees were 50, 60 feet high each. We had 2 of them, and we had raccoons in them, and it was a big problem because they could get on our roof. And we had a hurricane years ago, and it took both ficus trees down with it. Thankfully so, and we haven't had raccoons since.
And now they're back.
Yes, they're back. So what? Short of a trap, because I don't want to get involved in trapping, okay? How can I get the raccoons to move on? There's no food. We do not provide food. We don't feed them. There's no food outside. Our trash cans are fine. There's no loose trash cans that they can eat out of. Nothing. That's
all they're doing, scavenging, whatever you want to call it, for food.
And,
we're right near the Everglades.
And, they only come out in the early morning hours, but that's when I'm up doing my work here before I go to the radio station. So if you all out there have any effective
See, if you slept till 6 like a normal person, you'd never even know they were out there. It wouldn't even be on your mind.
No, but I'm up like a vampire, so I know. I know what's going on.
You're up at an ungodly
and
hour.
I do not like it. So let me know your tips.
You went in the garage, and you'd left the garage door open just a little bit, and you went out there. It was late. We heard some kind of noise, and you went out there, and you saw these 2 little beady eyes, and it was a possum.
Oh yes, I didn't like that.
Now I don't like possums.
I don't like
possums.
They
are to me, because they have really long tails. They look
rats.
like big rats.
They're rats.
But raccoons are cute.
No,
they don't bother me at all. They're like teddy bears.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't hold one, but I think they're adorable.
No.
They're all furry and.
No, I don't like them.
Didn't you see Over the Hedge? Remember we saw the movie.
That's
with
a
Emily?
cartoon, isn't it? No. I don't like it. I know some of you are going to tell me.
I don't like.
And I've seen that idiot on YouTube that has like 500 raccoons that he's feeding hot dogs to. You ever see that guy?
And they come up to his lap and they're fat as hell. He
it's crazy.
To stop feeding those raccoons. They're huge.
Well,
I've never seen.
You know
such
what
fat
happens?
animals.
Okay, you guys have all seen the raccoon guy on YouTube.
Yeah, he feeds them hot dogs. They come up and jump on his lap.
If that guy stopped feeding them, they would attack him and get violent.
They might eat him instead.
They only let him live because he's feeding them hot dogs. I want them. I'm looking out the window now, and all I can see is cayenne pepper all over the backyard.
He's not our neighbor.
Oh.
Brian couldn't handle that. We'd have to move.
I'm not going to shoot the raccoons because I'm not going to let a firearm off in the neighborhood. But I got to get rid of them.
No, I wouldn't do that either.
A BB gun?
I'm giving him an idea.
Well,
now.
the problem with the BB gun is it's dark, it's late at night. I'd have to get pretty close to them to be able to see them to get a shot with a BB gun. So I'm not going to do that.
Doing that.
No.
Would that hurt? Would that kill them or just scare them off?
So help on the raccoons because Kathy will tell you I'm terrified. I don't like any type of rodent. Are
they considered a rodent though?
They are to me. I don't.
I don't think
they are
technically.
To me.
Are they
marsupial?
Do they carry? Do they have a pouch? I don't think they have pouches.
No, they don't. I've seen.
But I don't think they're rodents. Maybe I'm wrong.
To me, they're big rats. I don't care what they are. So your tips are
They
welcome.
look like little bears to me, like a cute little bear. They got big fluffy tails with a cool stripe.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I know I think Rome had one. She was helping. She had in a cage.
Yeah.
She's got an animal helping animal sanctuary type thing. And I think she had a raccoon that was injured that she was helping, and then she released it. That's nuts to me. That's very brave. I couldn't do something like that.
Yeah.
But she's good with animals like that. And so I don't recommend doing anything like that, like trapping them, like you said. And then you have to, because I would imagine once you get a raccoon in a cage that's perfectly healthy, they go nuts. And they freak out.
I know someone who caught a raccoon in their yard in a cage and took it to the Everglades or something about it. And they opened it up and it just jumped out. And I just don't have it in me to take that risk going out in the Everglades and doing that. So anyway, that's that.
And you know what? If you did, there would just be more coming. I mean, we live near the Everglades. I mean, I've seen otters.
Florida.
I've seen otters in our neighborhood.
Florida's a swamp.
Foxes. We've had coyotes.
Swamp.
I mean, there's lots of animals around here because we live literally
gators.
A mile from the Everglades.
Yeah, the gators.
So, gators. So we've seen everything.
I'm not afraid of gators. I don't mind gators. I can handle gators. I cannot handle raccoons. Anyway, guys.
Okay, Steve
listen,
Irwin.
That's right. That's right. I'm sure Steve Irwin had something that he didn't like. I'm sure there was something.
Because I used to watch his show. I love Steve Irwin. I wonder if there was an animal he was really afraid of.
I don't know. Well, listen, everyone. Your help would greatly be appreciated. Okay, yes. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And, your support just by listening helps this program a lot. The podcast has been going for many, many years now because of all of you in the listening audience. And I do appreciate each and every one of you and your support. My name is Brian Craig. Always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we will talk to you next time.
Are you a cool dad? Parenting and fatherhood meets self-help in the book, Daddy is Cool Like That, available on Amazon. This important book is all about positive parenting, relationships with children, and being a super cool daddy. The perfect daddy and daughter moments in this heartwarming story will inspire you to celebrate your own family relationships. This book's charming illustrations will grab your attention and make the story about daddy even more heartwarming. This book is not only a great gift, but also a fantastic read for everyone. Daddy is Cool Like That may be the book that gives you the incentive to be not only cool, but magnificent. This is a children's picture book that depicts a young family who has recently had their father diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Partly inspired by the author's family journey with the disease, it shows other young children and the families how to cope and to realize that there can still be moments of enjoyment to be shared, as well as the happy memories that follow. Daddy is Cool Like That, available on Amazon. Get your copy today.